The message I was never supposed to send. Chapter 2. The stranger who stayed the next morning. I didn't expect to hear from him again. People don't usually become part of your life after a wrong message. They apologize. They disappear. Life moves on. I thought ours would end exactly the same way. I was halfway through my morning at work when my phone vibrated inside my pocket. I ignored it. Work came first. When lunch finally arrived, I carried my food to the pantry, sat by the window and unlocked my phone. One unread message. From him. Good afternoon. I smiled. It was strange how one simple greeting could brighten an exhausting morning. I replied, Good afternoon. Have you eaten already? His reply came almost instantly. Not yet. It's still breakfast time here. I frowned. Breakfast? I looked at the clock hanging on the pantry wall. It was already past 1 in the afternoon. Breakfast? Where exactly are you? A few seconds later, 5 hours behind you. I stared at the screen. 5 hours. It sounded like nothing, just numbers, just different time zones. I had no idea that those 5 hours would soon become part of my everyday life. From that day on, our conversations found their own rhythm. When I was having lunch, he was making breakfast. When I was preparing to sleep, he was still finishing his evening. When I greeted him good morning, he still had a few more hours before bed. Somehow, our days learned how to meet in the middle. It didn't feel forced. It simply happened. Little by little, he became the first person I wanted to tell whenever something happened. A difficult customer, a funny mistake at work, the delicious coffee I accidentally spilled before I could even taste it, the beautiful sunset outside my office window, things I wouldn't normally tell anyone. Yet somehow, I wanted him to know. And he told me everything too, about his work, the weather, the food he was eating, the songs stuck in his head, the random thoughts that appeared in the middle of the day. Sometimes our conversations were meaningful, sometimes completely ridiculous. One afternoon he suddenly asked, Can I call you? I stared at the message. Call? We had only been chatting for a few days. I wasn't sure. Not because I was uncomfortable, I simply wasn't expecting it. After a minute I finally replied, Okay, but don't laugh if I sound awkward. A few seconds later, my phone rang. I looked at the unfamiliar international number. For some reason, my heart started beating faster. I answered, Hello? There was a brief silence. Then, Hi. His voice was warm, gentle, exactly the kind of voice I imagined after reading all his messages. So, he laughed softly. This is what the girl who sent the wrong message sounds like. I covered my face even though he couldn't see me. I'm never going to escape that, am I? Never. I laughed. That's unfair. It is. But I like reminding you. For the next 3 hours, we talked. Not because we had important things to say, but because every topic somehow led to another. Childhood memories, favorite food, movies, music, the dreams we hadn't told many people. Sometimes we laughed so hard that neither of us could continue speaking. Sometimes we sat quietly listening to each other's breathing. Surprisingly, the silence never felt uncomfortable. It felt peaceful. When I finally looked at the time, I gasped. I have work tomorrow, he laughed. I noticed an hour ago. You knew? I didn't want to interrupt. You should have told me. I was enjoying listening to you. My cheeks warmed. No one had ever said something so simple, yet made it sound so sincere. Before ending the call, he asked quietly, Can I call you again tomorrow? I smiled before answering. I think I'd like that. That night, as I lay in bed, I realized something. I still knew very little about him. I only had a few pictures of him. No video calls, no grand promises, no expectations. Just a voice that somehow made the distance between two countries feel smaller. Before I fell asleep, one last message appeared. Sleep well. I smiled. You too, when it's finally nighttime there. I put my phone down, closed my eyes, and for the first time in a very long while, I found myself looking forward to tomorrow. Not because tomorrow was special, but because somewhere, 5 hours behind my world, there was someone I couldn't wait to talk to again. And the changes were so small that I didn't notice them at first, until the people around me did. One afternoon, while I was replying to his messages during lunch, one of my closest friends sat across from me and watched, without saying a word. "What?" I asked. She smiled. "Nothing." "No, seriously." "What?" "You've smiled at your phone at least 10 times since you sat down." I looked at my phone, then at her. "I have not." "You have." "I was reading something funny." She laughed. Then she leaned forward. "So, wait,